Welcome to Love, Nature, and Protect Animals, where we share heartfelt and authentic stories about wildlife, nature, and the incredible bond between humans and the wild. If you believe that compassion knows no species and that nature always has something to teach us, hit that follow button so you won't miss any of these unforgettable moments. Deep in the snow-laden forests of northern Oregon, where the trees stand like silent sentinels and the wind sings through their branches, lived a woman named Eleanor. She had silver hair, gentle hands, and a quiet way of moving through the world. Her life, once filled with laughter and children's footsteps, had grown still. But she wasn't bitter, she chose it, this solitude. She said the trees listened better than most people ever did. Eleanor had been a nurse once. She knew the weight of a dying breath, the strength of a whispered goodbye. And though years had passed since she'd last tended to a patient, she never stopped caring. Her days began early: tea, firewood, feeding the birds, watching the sky turn from slate to gold. It was a life of rhythm, of silence, and she'd come to appreciate the quiet way snow covers grief. But that morning, something changed. The wind had been relentless all night, sweeping snow into high drifts and rattling the shutters. Eleanor wrapped herself in a thick wool shawl and opened the cabin door to retrieve firewood from the stack beside the porch. And then she saw it. Not 10 feet away, a doe stood in the snow, shivering, not from cold alone, but from something deeper: fear, exhaustion, desperation. Her breath came out in heavy plumes, and her sides trembled with each inhale. And at her feet lay a fawn, tiny, lifeless. One leg twisted at an unnatural angle, its chest barely rose. Eleanor's first instinct was to step back, to shut the door. She had encountered wild animals before. You didn't approach them. You certainly didn't interfere. But the mother deer made no move to attack, no sign of aggression. She didn't run. She simply lowered her head and gave the fawn the gentlest of nudges, pushing it toward the house. Then she looked up at Eleanor, and in those dark eyes, Eleanor saw something that cut through the cold: pleading, trust, a mother's final hope. Slowly, cautiously, Eleanor stepped out. "I'm not here to hurt you," she whispered, voice trembling. "I just want to see." She knelt beside the fawn. Its body was stiff with cold. But when she pressed her palm to its chest, there, faint, barely there, a heartbeat. "Oh, my darling," she breathed. "You're not done fighting yet." Eleanor scooped the fawn into her arms. It was lighter than she expected, weightless, fragile, like holding a story that might end too soon. She wrapped it in her shawl, glancing once more at the mother deer, who remained still as a statue. Inside, Eleanor moved with urgency born of instinct. The fire was stoked, warm towels placed nearby, a blanket laid by the hearth. She carefully unwrapped the fawn, dried its fur, and covered it with layers of softness. Then honey, mixed with warm water, just a few drops. She gently opened its mouth and touched the liquid to its tongue. Nothing, another drop, a twitch. A flicker of movement so small it could have been imagined, but Eleanor knew better. She leaned in, speaking gently. "You're safe now. You're not alone." Hours passed. She stayed by the fawn, speaking in low tones, telling stories of the winters when her children would track snow into the kitchen, of her husband's terrible jokes, of the time she treated a patient who reminded her of a stubborn old raccoon. Outside the window, the doe remained. Not once did she leave her vigil. That night, as the wind settled and the sky grew dark, the fawn opened its eyes. They were soft, clouded with pain, but alert, and they locked with Eleanor's. She reached out, resting her fingers against its forehead. "Hello, little one." Tears fell freely then, rolling down her weathered cheeks, leaving trails on skin that had long known loss. The next morning, the fawn stood, wobbly, trembling, but standing. Eleanor opened the front door. The world outside was white, still, and waiting. The mother deer stood a few feet away, alert. The fawn took slow steps forward, then stopped, looked back, and walked to Eleanor. It pressed its head into her hand, just once. A gesture so tender it broke her heart open in new places. Then it turned, ran to its mother, and disappeared into the trees. But that was not the end. Each year, on the anniversary of that storm, Eleanor would find something on her porch. A bundle of berries, a smooth river stone, a perfectly intact pine cone. No tracks in the snow, no sound, but always something. She never told anyone, not the mailman, not the ranger who checked in once a month. This was a secret between her, the trees, and two wild hearts. As the years went by, Eleanor grew older, slower, but each winter she still waited, and the gifts still came. She kept them in a wooden box by the fire, called them her silent thank yous. When asked why she stayed out there, all alone, she'd smile gently. "I'm not alone," she'd say. "Not really." One spring, when Eleanor passed peacefully in her sleep, the ranger found her home tidy, warm, and still. On the mantel, next to the box of gifts, was a carved wooden figure of a deer and fawn, and on the porch, a new gift, a crown of wildflowers, fresh, delicate, and tied with a strand of gray wool, the very same shawl Eleanor once wrapped around a dying fawn.